Thank you, Mr Speaker. Well, this afternoon's general debate has certainly been revealing in terms of the way it's looked across the different leadership aspirants in the House. And I must allude to the comments made by a number of my frontbench MPs today, particularly Maurice Williamson and Simon Power, who canvassed the leadership aspirants in the House today. Of particular note was Maurice Williamson's when he got up here and quoted David William Shakespeare Cunliffe and the bard of New Zealand politics and with his poetical oratory. But when he quoted and quoted from his poem about the summer of New Zealand politics and foretold the summer that's to come and the change of the political environment, particularly across there in the Labour Party. But then, in addition to what Mr Williamson said, it was really interesting to hear or to listen to Simon Power, who revealed the power brokers behind the Labour Party push to a change in leadership, particularly Ross Robinson and George Hawkins from South Auckland and the things that they were going to do. But I think the most revealing thing that Mr Power actually revealed was his very last comment, where he said, "Watch the redhead." And I have some new revealing information to share with the House tonight, which is not Chris Hipkins, I understand, the Leader of the House and the Senior Whip, Darren Hughes. But we have been able to reveal the TV3 preferred Prime Minister polls that came out recently, where we've seen Mr Phil Goff falling in his leadership numbers down and then over the time and then slightly coming down. The interesting point was that with Helen Clark also falling since she left, but then rising as colleagues across the House sought to text her and seek information from her. The very revealing point, though, is this new information that's come to hand where we've seen Darren Hughes entering onto the political landscape as a TV3 preferred Prime Minister. Right. And it's an interesting point. The very interesting point here is the other information, which is the Goff net approval ratings here, where we've seen Phil Goff's net approval ratings falling, unfortunately, over the last 6 to 8 months. But even more revealing to see young Darren Hughes getting onto the political landscape here. And we see the rise of Mr Hughes through this particular poll. But more recently, as he's risen to number 8 on the pecking order over that side of the House, he's been in the news over buying his own beers, keeping his head down with regard to the political expenses. He had a huge lift when we had Hugger Ginga Day here in the House, didn't he? A huge lift. And then more recently, obviously, the Crimpoline suit affair has given him a profile that none of us were actually expecting, but that certainly saw him rise in the polls. But most recently, a huge increase in the polls from the Australasian Ginga effect. With Julia Gillard appointment to the Australian Prime Minister, that's had an effect on Darren Hughes over the other side, and you can see the Ginga effect. You can see his net approval ratings for Prime Minister going through the roof. So it's absolutely no. Unfortunately, Chippy hasn't come up onto the radar yet. My polls are showing that it's only Mr Hughes leading by more than the nose at this point in time. So actually. Great news for Mr Hughes. Great to see him appearing on that political poll, especially given he's my colleague across the House. Absolutely fantastic. But wow, look, I'm not even there at this, mate. Not even planning on being there, eh? No plans of that at all. So while the opposition are debating leadership aspirants and as Mr Hughes rises in the polls, they're wallowing in all those issues that they're facing over there, this government's getting on with the job and we're delivering. And in terms of law and order, we have actually driven a great law and order policy. Just last couple of weeks ago, back in the seat of Napier, I had Judith Collins there. We were opening a new police station in Tamatea. 3 new police officers going to be operating from that station, just once again delivering on the promises from our election. Going back to the suburb of Maraenui in my electorate as well, once again, rolling out some new police officers into that suburb, new community police officers, which Judith Collins is once again rolling out. Absolutely fantastic to see those police officers in the community, in the schools, helping to lift law and order and safety in that community, which really, really is important in that lower economic part of my community. On top of that, later this year, Mr Speaker, we're going to see the Nuhaka Police Station just down the road from Antolli's electorate on the East Coast, a new police station on the East Coast there, or a refurbished one, another policeman there, and it's got great news. All up, this government is doing extremely well. Thank you.
Time for this debate has expired. Call Government Order of the Day number 1.
Education Amendment Bill number 2, first